Start with the sequencing, because sequencing is the message. One news cycle carried Prince William's unusually direct comments about change for good, family boundaries, and trimming traditions that feel not fit for purpose today. Within days, the King's channels spotlit Prince Edward at the Oval, delighted by the Lord's Taverner's inclusive cricket programmes and, crucially, sitting in a patronage chair once occupied by Prince Philip for more than 7 decades. That choreography is not accidental. It's the institution playing 2 complementary notes at once. The heir articulates why adjustment is needed, the working royals demonstrate how continuity delivers value right now. Zoom in on the William half of the chord. His remarks with Eugene Levy did 2 things the monarchy rarely does in public: acknowledged emotional realities, the metaphorical rug moments in family life, and named change as a forward policy rather than a reluctant concession. He didn't list a manifesto, but the direction of travel is legible: less costume where it obscures purpose, more access where it builds trust, a cadence of engagements that matches family life rather than consumes it, modern management tone, ties optional, outcomes mandatory, in place of reflexive formality. None of that repudiates tradition, it interrogates it. The test he kept implying is disarmingly simple. Does this practice do work for people, or just for optics? Now the Edward half. The Oval Post wasn't a nostalgia postcard. It surfaced exactly the kind of patronage that translates well to the prove-it culture the public expects: a long relationship, Philip's 12th man era, iterating into a modern inclusion program, table cricket in send settings, with a royal showing up to play, not just to pose. It's continuity as instrument, not ornament. Put differently, if William's thesis is that tradition must earn its keep, Edward supplied Exhibit A. This is also a case study in palace communications. The Rift storyline is media rocket fuel, but it tends to misread what the court actually signals. Look at the pattern the palace has been refining. The heir speaks to purpose, not palaces. William gives you principles, change that preserves legitimacy, boundaries that protect children, modernization that keeps the crown useful. He avoids tactical skirmishes and personalities, because the point is durability. The institution answers with proofs of concept. Within the same window, another senior royal lands in a room where the crown's presence makes an immediate difference: fundraising oxygen, political attention, volunteer energy, and the visuals are practical, not theatrical. Third-party validators close the loop. Seasoned chroniclers clarify that the heir's comments are not insubordination but iteration. That reframing calms markets, media markets, donor markets, Commonwealth partners, by making change sound like maintenance, not mutiny. Taken together, that's the monarchy's operating rhythm when it's working well: vision, demonstration, reassurance. Extend the lens beyond a single week and the pattern holds. The Windsor base case, prioritizing a family-anchored routine while keeping national pageantry centered in London, shows a domestic version of the same logic: lower temperature in the private sphere, steady temperature in the public square. Earthshot exhibits the policy version: a royal flag planted not in speechmaking but in a 10-year grant engine that scales solutions and then measures what happened next. Even the microsignals, ties optional at duchy meetings, fewer monograms and less silverware theatre, an instinct to rebalance Garter-Day emphasis toward honorees align with the larger theme: remove friction, keep meaning. Where this gets strategically interesting is in the trade-offs. The monarchy's brand equity is a mix of mystique, continuity, ritual, symbolism, and utility, access, convening power, fundraising leverage. Over-erode the mystique and you flatten the product into just another NGO. Ignore utility and you become a costume museum with an expensive roof. William's public calculus appears to be: preserve the mystique that money can't buy, a coronation, a trooping, a funeral the world stops to watch; strip the mystique that gets in the way, fancy dress that reads as cosplay, and then flood the zone with competence. Competence, however, isn't silent, it must be seen. That's where the Edward moment is so effective. It communicates 3 things at once. Longevity matters. A 70-year patronage lineage isn't a boast, it's compounding interest. Relationships nurtured across generations create trust that can't be accelerated by press releases. Adaptation matters more. The charity evolved from convivial cricketing to inclusive participation, The royal role evolved from guest of honor to demonstrator. The brand stayed, the product changed. Joy sells. The images were fun. Not solemn, not posh, just fun. That's not trivial. Public patience for institutions increases when the work looks human and the humans look like they're enjoying useful things. Translate that back into the what changes question around William's future brief. Ceremonial right-sizing. Expect tweaks that reduce costume load where it distracts, toned down garter optics, fewer plumes except on the biggest national stages, and redirect attention to recipients and results. Schedule architecture. Fewer megadays that sprawl across headlines, more modular visits that link to measurable initiatives. Less what a lovely morning copy, more this clinic added X capacity and this school piloted Y program. Family boundary enforcement. School runs that don't get sacrificed to scheduling whim, travel rules that ensure one parent on the ground, digital and device boundaries that are publicly modeled and privately enforced. Portfolio consolidation. Fewer patronages in name only, deeper involvement in fewer fields to avoid diffusion. Earthshot is the prototype, early years is the princesses. Comms that teaches, not teases. Explanatory reels, data snapshots, and behind-the-scenes process moments that make the crown legible without stripping it of texture. Risk management sits underneath all of this. Reform is a story, but it's also a spreadsheet. You face 3 predictable hazards. Overcorrection. If you sand down too much ceremony, you lose aura. Solution. Keep the tentpoles, state opening, remembrance, trooping, coronation liturgy near sacrosanct, and treat everything else as adjustable lighting and sound. Under-delivery. If you talk change but deliver only surface edits, you create cynicism. Solution. Ship quietly, then show receipts. Earthshot's alumni impact reports are good muscle memory. Narrative capture. If family drama hijacks the microphone, mission gets crowded out. Solution. Relentless agenda setting with service proofs, plus judicious use of third-party voices to swat down feverish speculation without getting dragged into it. The Commonwealth dimension also matters. Many realms are renegotiating constitutional ties, Republican conversations ebb and flow. A crown that looks useful, respectful, and light on theatre travels better than one that arrives as pageant first, purpose second. The Edward Philip continuum signals that the family understands longevity must be matched by humility in how it shows up abroad and in diaspora communities at home. There's also a generational audience problem to solve. Youth support for the monarchy is softer than among older cohorts. You won't reverse that with balcony optics. You can, however, move the needle with visible, replicable wins in areas young voters care about: climate solutions that create jobs and cleaner cities, mental health literacy that reaches schools and sports clubs, early years frameworks that communities can adapt. William's insistence on change for good only works if the for good is touchable. That is where the relay with Edward and others is powerful. One voice explains the why, several pairs of hands deliver the what. Put all of this back into the single week that triggered the conversation. The palace didn't counter William's candor, it complemented it. The heir challenged tradition to justify itself, the Duke made tradition look justified. Commentators poured water on rift fantasies and replaced them with a picture of alignment, a king and an heir who agree on direction even if their cadences differ, a family that understands the optics of pomp fatigue, a communications team that knows how to let proof carry the day. If you're tracking future tells, watch for these signals. Ceremonial edits by accretion. Not grand announcements, but a season-over-season lightness to certain outfits and processions, paired with richer storytelling for Hanores. Outcome dashboards for flagships. Earthshot-style metrics expanding into adjacent portfolios, case studies that read like policy briefs, not PR venue choices that preach the thesis. Fewer gilt rooms when a gym or workshop works better, more historic spaces used to host modern purpose, science fairs in state apartments, send sport in storied grounds. Staff culture cues. Dress norms that match task, scheduling that privileges deep work over diary stuffing, talent recruitment from sectors where delivery trumps deference. Family cadence discipline. School terms and health privacy guardrails treated as fixed parameters, not variables to be negotiated with the news cycle. None of this is glitzy. That's the point. The monarchy's long game, when it succeeds, is cumulative, not viral. It compounds confidence by stringing together small, visible, low-drama wins until the weather shifts and people start assuming usefulness again. The Oval Week was one of those small wins. It paired a statement about the future with a scene that explained why the past is still worth carrying. Continuity answered change, change nodded back. And for an institution whose best metaphor is still a relay, that's exactly how it should sound.